Live from the Infowars.com studios, it's Alex Jones.
Well, it happened to the media's horror. And they're already in overdrive spinning that it's Trump dissing women and dissing other world leaders to worship Putin. They've now shaken hands. And yesterday, of course, the Polish First Lady, Melania, reached out her hand. Trump was also reaching out. That's something that happens routinely in diplomatic events. She shook the lady's hand first. They said it was a major diss because she was already walking right past. And then the media edits it there to not show you how right after she shakes Melania's hand, she shakes Trump's hand. Now, again, this seems stupid to cover. But the reason it's important is it shows how deceptive MSM is, and it's a window into how they're operating and what they think of you, and how they're targeting you and I and everybody else on this planet. It's peer pressure. Melania's getting off the plane in Tel Aviv. Trump's 10 feet ahead of her. He starts reaching his hand back, looking for her hand. She's focused ahead on the people who she's going to shake their hands. She's a model. She has better etiquette than he does. Better etiquette than anybody I've seen in a long time, quite frankly. Amazing etiquette. She doesn't get his hand. They say, oh, they're fighting. She hates him. No, she's walking down the runway. She's focused. So when he shakes Putin's hand, he's a Russian agent. When the Polish president's wife, he's already about to shake hands with Melania, Trump tries to be gracious and puts his hand out because he's ahead of Melania. Same things happens, and the media runs it like it's the #1 story in the world that the Polish president's wife, the first lady of Poland, dissed him. She came out and said, that's fake news. Melania's hand was out first. I was already going past the president. But again, that's how they take the petty and ignore him saying, good job, Poland, not letting an Islamic invasion happen. You've had no terrorist attacks. Great job, Poland, working with the West. Great job, Poland, becoming so productive and getting your economy going. We want to work with you. Instead of the millions of people on the streets supporting Trump, they turn it into the Poles didn't even want to see Trump. The Polish people don't like Trump. In fact, the Polish first lady wouldn't even shake his hand. That's what Hollywood does. That's the mindset they push, that you're not in the cool crowd if you're not for Hillary. There's nothing more uncool than the Republican leadership, the Democratic leadership, people like Nancy Pelosi. They are a joke. And the truth is, whether it's India or Israel or Russia or Poland and many other countries, Trump is a rock star because they know he's a maverick. They know he's a rebel. They know he's a nationalist. They know he's pro-Christian. They know he's pro-wealth. He's pro-progress. He's pro-success, not globalist combines and crony capitalism and oligopolies and monopolies. But they're so delusional at CNN, they've plummeted to a 1-star rating at the Apple Store. We have a 4.5 at the Apple Store out of 5. And they have the lowest ratings, not just in cable TV, but they got beaten by reruns, decades-old reruns, of Yogi Bear cartoon. Yes, from the 1970s. You heard me right. Arrogant Don Lemon. Arrogant Anderson Cooper. Arrogant. But that's all they've got left is their arrogance. Let's go out to break with the president, talking about meeting with Trump. It's an honor to be with you. Here it is.
Various things, and I think it's going very well. We've had some very, very good talks. We're going to have a talk now, and obviously that will continue. But we look forward to a lot of very positive things happening for Russia, for the United States, and for everybody concerned. And it's an honor to be with you. I'm delighted to be able to meet.
We're going to come back with more of this, but what happened is Trump's strong statements gave them cover now to make a deal. Ladies and gentlemen, we're live, kicking off this Global Friday worldwide transmission. I am your host, Alex Jones. The news websites are Infowars.com and, of course, backup site PrisonPlanet.com. You can follow us on Twitter at Real Alex Jones and all our other great reporters and crew like Paul Joseph Watson, the good old PJW. I've really got to take my time today to go over what's happening, because we've got really serious news with the head U.S. commander in the Pacific saying that the United States is prepared and is preparing to carry out strikes if ordered on North Korea. And China and Russia have green-lighted that they may back those strikes if North Korea continues to threaten to nuke their neighbors and test ICBMs. So that's some huge negative news. And since it's been, almost 60 years since the ceasefire armistice, a fancy term for a ceasefire, there on the demilitarized zone, we tend to get a little complacent and think that it's never going to happen. But as you know in life, things tend to actually happen if they can happen. So very, very serious situation with Kim Jong-un, who is running his own country and now not under the thumb of China, who certainly is villainous, but not megalomaniacal or completely disconnected from reality. They're megalomaniacal in many ways, but not when it comes to destroying their own nest. So we have that situation going on. The economy speeding up in ways, slowing down in others. Global combines trying to kill the economy. We've got USA Today, as I said, reporting the severe options for North Korea are on the table. We've got reports on Infowars.com looking at the different options that Trump has. We're going to be breaking that down some today. And then you've got the incredible arrogance of MSM, the entire mainstream media dying combine, who for 20 years have seen their ratings decline to basically nothing. 100,000 viewers per average show. That's local radio shows in big cities have that easily. So it is a legend in its own mind, the mouse that roared. But still, as trolls, CNN, MSNBC, ABC, NBC, and others, they can still troll the public with fake news stories, and they can still create racial division. They can still stir up hoaxes. They can still push lies. And they can combine forces and try to prop each other up. Now, something very interesting has happened in the last month. We've seen MSM turn on Megyn Kelly, something MSM doesn't normally do in its news divisions when it came to the interview with yours truly. Her ratings now are 1/3 of what they were when she started out 5 weeks ago. The public is totally turned on her and her attacks on America and the free press. She was sent in on a suicide mission politically. The same things happened at CNN. For the first time, we're seeing the Washington Post, the New York Times, ABC News, all turning on CNN and saying they got clotheslined by bullying the maker of the Trump body slam meme. That where's their journalistic standards that Zucker promised a few months ago to put into place? That was the Washington Post. Now, that's hilarious because the only media worse than CNN is the Washington Post. $600 million the last month in office that Obama gave to the CIA in a section of domestic propaganda that he legalized 4 years ago to engage in disinformation via the Washington Post. It writes the talking points. Media Matters writes talking points to a lesser degree, but they're number two. The Washington Post now writes the hit piece talking points. So to have the Washington Post demonizing and saying CNN's done is just fabulous. The hypocrisy, the arrogance, the just total delusional behavior, believing in their desperateness that if they start throwing each other overboard, that will somehow let them survive. This is final phase meltdown, final phase burning to the ground. Because I'll be honest with you, everybody hailed me as some genius playing Megyn Kelly like a fiddle and that, oh, I did this incredible job. I didn't do that good of a job. And I say this because data is key, and I'm not going to give you false data. You hate them so much that they could have run a rotting possum against her in the ratings, and she would have failed. She's hated, and they're hated so much that nothing they do will ever put them back together again. By extension, challenging her, going into the lion's den, knowing they'd edit it, knowing they'd make me look like a gibbering idiot. It didn't matter because it became a spectacle to focus on the fact that a fight was happening, and I knew it was a fight we'd win because of you. And the arrogant Chuck Todds of the world and the arrogant Chris Comos have not figured it out yet. The arrogant Nancy Pelosi's, the arrogant Maxine Waters, the arrogant Hillary Clintons on just fruitcake level power trips. When you see them out in public and stuff, they say, so self-important, so mentally ill, so fallen that they don't even know how dumb they are when Macron calls the entire French parliament into the palace of the Sun King at Versailles and implements emergency measures not in since the end of World War II, martial law. That's headlines. Emergency powers. He declared emergency powers, martial law. Remember Hollande just did it a few years ago for a few months as a beta test. And then he said, I will now rule as a Jupiterian god of Rome. I am Jupiter. Now, we've got video coming up where he tries to force his way into the front line with Trump to get beside him. Here's Trump just saying, I'm a man. I'm a blue-collar billionaire. I believe in you. The people is the engine of freedom, the engine of innovation. I want to be with you. I want to empower you. You empower me. We're just people working together for a better future. And there's the little Jupiterian god trying to run down and get in the front row. That's coming up. It's on Infowars.com, trying to run up and get in the front row. Oh, yeah, you're not acting like a god. You're acting like some little puppet who wants to get by the real man, not a god, but a man of courage, a man of vision, a man of destiny, a man who believes in humanity and ingenuity and innovation. You have to come scrabbling down a puppet made by others, literally created by Goldman Sachs and the Rothschilds, literally works for them, created as some teenage sex bot who was admittedly a sex toy of the elite as a child, as a 14-year-old. That's what we know about. They're just getting us ready for it all. Trying to scrabble down to get beside Trump so he could look big. Yeah, here's some of the video for TV viewers. The video's up on Infowars.com. Fox and Friends and others covered it. Bottom left-hand side of the screen, scrabbling down to get next to President Trump. Look, he's not even supposed to be there on the edge, groveling to Trump, the same guy he's constantly attacking and going after, the God. It's like in Ghostbusters, Zool asked them, are you a god? And they said, no, then die. He says, next time somebody asks you if you're a god, you tell them yes. No amount of pyramids in the night and all-seeing eyes will make you a god, fool. You little greedy, selfish monster. God gave you the path to the entire universe through your progeny and through the long march that humanity has to earn. And then you just sit there and declare yourself a god because you reportedly pop synthetic high-tech ecstasy every day and think you are a god. You're just a dime a dozen, another delusional nobody. And it goes further. CNN says, and the fake news king Acosta says, that Trump got absolutely dissed by the Polish first lady, and that Merkel, you know, he grabbed her hand or whatever. No one wants to shake his hand. He's such a failure. He's such a nobody. And they sit there with cameras watching, waiting while he shakes hundreds of hands for somebody to go past him and shake Melania's hand first because hers was already outstretched. That happens to everybody anytime you go out in public at a wedding or whatever. It happens to everybody. They turn it in to he's a failure. No one wants to shake his hand. Imagine the pathetic viewers, the few 100,000 that watch the average show, the few million that still watch CNN total, who see that and think, oh, good, he's a failure. We're still in the in club. You're not in the in club watching CNN. The globalists don't give you anything. You just fantasize that you're part of the elite, and then you fantasize that Trump's failing, and you fantasize that no one wants to shake his hand. How pathetic. And so they tell you Melania wouldn't hold his hand in Israel. She's like 10 feet behind him, about to shake somebody else's hand. He puts his hand back. She's not there. Oh, my gosh, no one wants to touch him. He's shunned. He's a nobody. He's not a maverick. He's a failure. He isn't his own man. He gets it all from Bannon. He gets it all from Alex Jones. He gets it all from Roger Stone. Let me tell you something. You talk to Trump, he does the talking. It just shows how unbelievable their disinfo is and how it's failing. CNN has gone to 1 star on iTunes overnight, and they have lower ratings than re-airs of Yogi Bear. It's all coming up. All right, a lot of good news going on, but don't forget, we've also got the situation where top military commander in the Pacific is saying we are ready to hit North Korea, and that President Trump is preparing very, very serious actions because they are a clear and present danger with nuclear weapons, threatening to preemptively strike folks. That's like taking a gun out, loading a bullet into the chamber, putting it to somebody's head and saying, I'll pull the trigger. You have a right to stand up against that person. And it shows how truly mentally ill they are. The U.S. vows tougher action on North Korea after missile test. I want to get to Putin and Trump's first meeting here in a moment. But first off today, what do you make of the total collapse of CNN and the fact that you can really officially, as a media analyst, say that CNN is dead? I am here to declare on 7/7, the 7th day of July, 2017. Think about that. It's 7/7/17. 7/7/7. Good old lucky sevens. That CNN is officially dead because mainstream media, from the Washington Post to others, are all turning on them. They have ratings lower than basically anything on cable, lower than reruns of Yogi Bear. We have those Nielsen ratings up on Infowars.com. We are seeing the total collapse of very fake news. So you can mark this date. They're still going to leave a facade up. They're going to keep up appearances. They don't want to admit they've been totally destroyed. It's like Piers Morgan. I said, watch, Piers Morgan, after I was on a show, I said, he'll be off the air in 1 year. And a year later, he was off the air. And I predicted, I said, but they'll still give him a monthly magazine show for a year so they can quietly bury him and it's not embarrassing. Now, how did I know that? Because that's what they always do. Brian Williams, when he got caught lying about, being shot down in helicopters and beating Muhammad Ali in a heavyweight boxing match, and all the other ridiculous, he didn't really say that, I'm being sarcastic. He did say he got shot down in a helicopter and a lot of other fake news. They gave him a monthly magazine show, but they think you're so stupid they've all been caught lying. They've brought him back to MSNBC to do reports on fake news. I guess they think you'll get confused and go, oh, he's the fake news expert. I do associate him with fake news. Oh, I guess he's the expert that exposes it, not one of the biggest charlatans this country and this world have ever seen. But stick a big old fat juicy fork in it. CNN is dead. CNN, I declare CNN politically, credibility-wise, ratings-wise, by every yardstick. It'd be like if I had some benefactor, which we don't have, that would pay the $40 million a year. Yes, that's how much it costs to run an operation with almost 100 crew members and folks now and all the bandwidth and the infrastructure and the legal and all of it. Sounds like a lot. It's not. Medium-sized newspapers cost that much to run today. But imagine if I didn't have 40, 50 million viewers and listeners a week, and then we were just spending, CNN spends something like $1 billion a year. Imagine if $1 billion a year just keeps getting spent and they've got 100,000 viewers on average. That's pretending you're a news agency. That's pretending people are still watching you. That's pretending you still have an effect. And instead of backing off the lies that brought them to this point, that the WikiLeaks documents, the fake polls, the giving the questions beforehand for the debates, Hillary directing everything, instead of that, CNN is quadrupling with Acosta, attacks Trump for holding a fake news conference, and then gets his facts wrong, saying Trump is lying, saying that 17 agencies didn't unanimously say that Russia gave him the election, when those agencies have now said, we never said that. The New York Times made that up. This has been a huge controversy for 2 weeks. But he thinks CNN viewers are that dumb. Trump got it right. He said it was only 3 agencies said it. And it wasn't even agencies. It was analysts from those agencies that had worked for Obama. So Trump actually didn't get it completely right. It's worse than what President Trump said. Trump got it basically right that it was 3 people. He said 3 agencies. It was not 3 agencies. It was people from 3 agencies that have been up Obama's rear end and Clapper's rear end the entire time. So that's all coming up straight ahead. And then the intrepid reporter for Rebel Media, Laura Loomer, who confronted the so-called journalist, the king of fake news, Chris Como, the Corleone of the Communist News Network, confronted on his lies straight ahead. All right, let's get serious and get focused here. I'm in a really good mood because everything CNN and MSNBC and ABC News and NBC Touch is turning into explosions in their face. I mean, they've got the hand grenade touch, but they pull the pin of the hand grenade and it blows up in their face. We're going to be talking to the reporter who staked out CNN and talked to the wannabe celebrity, Chris Como, with his driver and his black SUV and feeling important, feeling powerful. You can do that for like $50 per ride. They do that for all their CNN people to again, create the illusion, like psychological warfare chief Edward Bernays said back in the 20s, that they are the new royalty. Make the media with red carpets, with flash bulbs. They used to send out to get the pump primed to Hollywood events as soon as the talkies started, people with cameras to take pictures from the production studio to create the illusion that these were really important people. It's all an act. But at least in the old days, they had giant audiences and fooled the population for a while. Now the population of the world, but particularly Western Europe and the United States, hates Hollywood and cannot stand it. China is lapping it up right now, especially dumbed-down propaganda. That's why most of the Hollywood films you see have kind of a Chinese communist, weird angle, and Hollywood admits that. So that's also accelerating the demise of the sickening, fetid globalist establishment and cannot make me any more happier. People are so sick of teleprompters. They're so sick of garbage. So Laura Loomer joining us, intrepid reporter. She got arrested for getting up during their Murder the President CNN-funded play. And just simply said, no more calls for political violence as they've been doing. We are clearly saying we don't want violence. CNN won't decry it against the president or Congressman Scalise or others. They have guests on that say the shooter wasn't evil. When we do joke memes and stuff that show Indiana Jones, blasting the CNN logo, or I'm throwing darts at Anderson Cooper, the last thing I want is harm to Anderson Cooper. Because Anderson Cooper is a joke. Anderson Cooper never had viewers in the 10 years he's been on air, but now he's really a joke. In fact, I hope they keep the facade propped up, the living dead propped up, because CNN is officially dead with credibility, with ratings, you name it. There's no resuscitating it. But watching them prop it up, kind of like, the weekend at CNN's, the weekend at Bernie's, watching it rot and crows pull the eyeballs out and the tongue hanging out and swelling up and the guts swelling up and then bursting all over the stage and just seeing the decay and then the worms pouring out of the mouth and the pus squirting out of the ears. I mean, it just goes on and on and on and on and on and on. It just can't get any better. Everybody knows I've been on here 22 years. When stuff's negative and we're in trouble, I will tell you we're losing to get you up off your butt and to take action. But let me tell you right now, the arrogance of people like Zucker thinking we're a bunch of dumb effers is beautiful. And it's only accentuating our victories. Now, they've got a few aces in the hole, secrets nobody knows. But we're going to get into those. Laura Loomer in just a moment. First off, ladies and gentlemen, we are running specials right now. 30% off on X2, the Deep Earth, good halogen, the opposite of the fluoride, the bromine, the chlorine, the good, true iodine, not the toxic garbage that they spew out and that you can pick up at the store or whatever that's for topical, but the real, clean, true iodine, not some byproduct of industrial use, but real, clean iodine. We're the only folks that have it. InfoWarsLife.com. Your purchase makes it possible. DNA Force, with, again, the only biologically derived form of bio-PQQ. Everything else out there, there's some other brands that put out the real stuff, but every other version is synthetic, and it's still $40, $50, $60 a bottle just for a small dose of the synthetic stuff. But the studies out there show that that's not being absorbed as much. 170 plus studies on bio-PQQ. You notice we're even allowed to make claims on this because it's known to regrow nerves. It's known to detoxify the mitochondria in the cells. This is amazing. It's it's the ultimate antioxidant. Something like 40 kegs, 40 little, packages of blueberries don't have the same antioxidant effect as one dose of bio-PQQ, and that's in each pill. And we've got a bunch of other stuff, the CoQ10 and a bunch of other patented acids and other amino acids that help you upload it better. DNA Forces back, 20% off, even though it's been 5 months since we've had it. We're extending the 4th of July specials with free shipping. On top of that, an additional 10% off when you sign up for auto ship. Some of these products are loss leaders. By the way, you hear a lot of My Patriot Supply ads on radio. They're the biggest company in the U.S. now. Just been around 9 years. But because of quality and because of affordability, they become the dominant company in the U.S. I signed a special deal 2 years ago to be able to private label their entire line, still drop ship by them, to get around their contracts with other distributors and suppliers, to give it to you 30 to 40% off. Now, usually it's only 10% off of my contract, but I'm allowed to, a few times a year, to have it 30 to 40% off. We're doing that right now. It's about to end. You will not get My Patriot cheaper anywhere except InfoWarsStore.com or 888-253-3139. And I hope for the best, prepare for the worst. I think we're going to fix North Korea. I hope that the regime takes out Kim Jong-un. I hope China continues to put pressure on them. But if stuff goes sideways, and top analysts say this is the most dangerous time ever, you're going to need water filtration, you're going to need storable foods, you're going to need firearms. And I just hope if you're getting prepared and provisioned on the front of water filtration, which you need anyways, and storable foods at InfoWarsStore.com. Or 888-253-3139. But again, thank you all for your support. Finally, please support our local affiliates. Become a sponsor, support their sponsors, let the sponsors know you're supporting them because you support the broadcast and the station, or send them $100 a month. Stop tithing to that New World Order church that won't stand up against globalism or abortion or world government or won't speak out against gun control or are scared of the IRS even though it's your First Amendment right. If you want to tithe that local radio station that's telling the truth and putting this broadcast on air. You want to tithe to your own health, your family's own health, and this broadcast. Sign up for auto ship and get discounts on great products. 360 wins. Using what God gave us through Mother Nature to counter the globalist onslaught. A win-win. Now, Laura Loomer is an amazing reporter and journalist. I can't go over all the great things that she's obviously done. She's with therebel.media. I was just talking to their founder and one of the main owners of it just the other day. He's going to come down and visit me next month here in Texas to talk about working more with Rebel Media because I love the work they're doing and I want to try to synergistically magnify in a win-win anybody that's fighting tyranny. Well, she and others like Jack Posobiec and, of course, many others have been camped outside the fake news mothership, CNN, the besieged mothership, where we've officially declared their post-mortem. They are dead on arrival due to lying, cheating, stealing, fraud, racketeering, intimidation, blackmail, scams, taking foreign money from Saudi Arabia and Qatar to push pro-Wahhabist views. They took hundreds of millions of dollars, we now know. Oh, yeah, that's from internal sources. We've had some of them on to launch the Arab Spring, to promote the jihad worldwide. They are a true enemy of this country. And Laura Loomer, I guess it was yesterday, staked out and ran into the thug brother of the governor of New York, Chris Cuomo, who said, you're not allowed to read WikiLeaks, only he is. And of course, the memes are, you're not allowed to blackmail, only CNN can. And so, again, as a con man, he continued with his arrogance to the end that he's in charge and everything's fine as the facade of the thug is propped up. But again, even the yes men around him hate him. Even his own producers are in 3 different videos saying everyone hates him. He's an idiot. He's arrogant. He's stupid. He doesn't even know what he's doing. He can hardly read off a teleprompter. Everyone hates him. He's only here because of his brother. This place is collapsing. The toilets are overflowing. There isn't even janitorial service. I mean, I've been inside there. It is a filth hole. I mean, I announced when I was there 4 years ago that it was dead already, but now it's official. And so this is all they've got is, again, their own lies that they're still surviving. Laura Loomer, do you agree with me that we can declare CNN dead at this point and they're just being propped up like Bernie?
Yeah, I agree 110%, Alex. It's really sad when, people are more concerned with memeing CNN than they are actually watching CNN. And that's the point that CNN has finally reached.
All they are is a clown to be pilloried.
No, I mean, they've become a total joke. And, as we've seen over the past 2 weeks or so with the combination of the Project Veritas videos and, embarrassing comments from CNN commentators and anchors and just a continued implosion in the media, I don't know how they're still functioning as a network.
Well, they've got to prop it up, just like they did when Piers Morgan finally left. I predicted, because it wasn't hard to predict, that they would put him out to pasture with a once-a-month magazine show. But see, you can't put a 24-hour so-called news station that's fake news, that's branded as anti-American filth from WikiLeaks until now. You can't turn that off without it being really a death knell of the entire industry. But I think that now that the rest of the fake news industry has turned against them, I believe that is the final bellwether that they know it's dead and no resuscitation.
Well, yeah, I would agree, but it's not dead until their advertisers pull out. So if people really want to put a nail in the coffin, they need to really start taking action into their own hands and going after the advertisers. It's really up to the American people to put pressure on all of these groups and organizations and like media companies that sponsor CNN. So if we're able to convince them to drop their sponsorship and funding of CNN, then we're able to take down CNN once and for all. Just similar to what Mike Cernovich was saying as well, too, you need to go after the airports that refuse to show any other news coverage besides CNN fake news. We need to target them and all of their sponsors, all of their advertisers, and make them completely irrelevant, just non-existent.
I've sat there hundreds of times in airports and noticed that no one's watching CNN. I guarantee you, and I don't want to be on the airports, that would be a badge of dishonor, and I mean, we were state-run, but if they put your show, my show, any real show on, talking about real issues with real energy, people pick up, it's teleprompter-free instantly. Everyone would be glued to those TVs, but no one watches it because they know it's like the prison food. Nobody wants to eat it.
Well, it's supposed to be white noise, right? It's propaganda. They just want you to hear it as you're walking through the airport. I mean, no one really watches the news when they're in the airport, but if you hear that, that fake news ringing in your ear, in the background as you're waiting for hours for a layover, they're just driving propaganda into your mind, and that's really why I think that these airports are so useful. As a tactic for CNN for spreading fake news and indoctrinating people on the left and, just creating really a civil war within this country. That's the goal of CNN, in my opinion. So we got to get it out of the airports.
That's right. I'm going to go ahead and announce this meme because I want everybody to make it. We need to have Rowdy Piper when the drone flies over and he goes, "Hello, my little friend. Come to tell them where I am. Not nice." And he shotguns it. And we're not calling for violence when we do that. It's that we're just simply pointing out that we want it out of our consciousness. We, in our own minds, are permanently marking it as absolutely enemy transmissions.
Look, CNN doesn't have a problem with violence. I don't know if people know this, but Time Warner CNN was one of the top media sponsors of the Julius Caesar play here in New York. But now that the tables have turned on them, they're all of a sudden, anti-violence. But where were they speaking out a few weeks ago when people were encouraging the assassination of Donald Trump, right? So I don't want to hear CNN complain about how memes are threatening and, memes are violence, because CNN has never cared about inciting violence. All they do is incite violence 24/7 with their fake news propaganda.
And by the way, how is your case going? Were you charged? I know you got arrested I mean, when Antifa runs up and takes over events for hours and lets no one speak in New York, that's totally normal. De Blasio loves it. But you just went up there for a minute and said, stop promoting political violence right after Congressman Scalise had been shot because they wouldn't decry it.
Yeah, not even a minute, 33 seconds. But yeah, I have court in August. August 14th is my court date. And, you know, I've been working with a lawyer to see, you know, what the best case scenario would be. But I'm waiting till my court date.
Now, set this up for us where you confronted Cuomo yesterday.
So I staked out of CNN and Jeff Zucker's residence actually yesterday all morning. You have to be there very early because, of course, these shows begin very early in the morning. And, you know, I currently have the addresses and schedules for nearly every single CNN anchor that lives in New York City, right? So this is only going to continue. I waited outside of the CNN headquarters here in New York, and I pinpointed Cuomo's driver, and I positioned myself near the vehicle so that when he was getting out of the building, I would be there as he was entering.
And let's roll from there. Here it is.
Mr. Cuomo, I have a quick question for you. Why did you delete a tweet in which you were encouraging the extortion of a Reddit user who posted a meme about CNN?
There was no encouraging any extortion. It wasn't a teenager. And the reason I took the tweet down was because the decision had already been made. I thought it was more conditional about whether or not his name was going to be released, and it wasn't. His name was already, going to be kept private because of his own actions and their concerns about his privacy. So it didn't make any sense, so I took it down. It's not the first time I deleted it.
Do you think that it's appropriate for CNN to be targeting private citizens over memes that CNN doesn't like?
I don't think that's what happened, and I think you should look at the other content that was on that site and think about who you're defending.
Don't you think it's free speech?
You heard what I said, right?
But you guys accuse Trump of bullying.
Then she got approached by CNN security for talking to someone on the street. Or bullying.
You can take a picture or report of the Town Warner CNN. You have to move it to the site.
I'm not allowed to record?
No, don't record it to tweet.
Yeah, you can record on the street, you jackass.
The public sidewalk.
No.
They had CNN security get in my face after I destroyed Piers Morgan.
Thanks. Oh.
Unbelievable. She's out on the sidewalk in a public comment. She's out in the street, and they're saying she has no First Amendment. Again, bullies, thug bullies. Unbelievable. Laura Loomer, straight ahead. I'm Alex Jones. She's with the Rebel Media. I'm with InfoWars. Spread the word today. Ladies and gentlemen, we've got big breaking news. This just broke in the Associated Press in the last 10 minutes. Now, do I believe fake news? AP got caught in a big fake news scandal. Normally, you can't believe a lot of what the AP says, but if it's an official release by President Trump, it's been announced by the White House, whitehouse.gov, we'll put it on screen, and I will read that on screen for folks. They're printing it for me now, but if we can just put that article on screen, I will read it. Again, we're teleprompter free, but they can put articles on screen for me. AP sources, U.S., Russia reach deal on Syria ceasefire. Now, just 2 minutes ago, this was only 3 lines. Now it's a whole story. They're getting more info. We'll go into the next hour a little bit with Laura Loomer so she can finish up. The United States and Russia have reached agreement on a ceasefire in southwest Syria, 3 U.S. officials said Friday, as President Donald Trump held his first meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin. The deal marks a new level of involvement for the U.S. in trying to resolve Syria's civil war. Although details about the agreement and how it will be implemented weren't immediately available, the ceasefire is set to take effect Saturday or Sunday at noon, Damascus time, and the officials who weren't authorized to discuss the ceasefire publicly spoke condition anonymity. Jordan and Israel also are part of the agreement. One of the officials said the 2 U.S. allies both share a border with the southern part of Syria and have been concerned about violence from Syrian civil war spilling over the border. The deal to separate from the de-escalation zones that were to be created under the deal brokered by the Russians, Turkey, and Iran earlier this year. The U.S. was not part of that deal. Follow-up talks this week in Kazakhstan to finalize a ceasefire in those zones failed to reach agreement. The U.S. and Russia have been backing opposing sides of the Syrian war, with Moscow supporting Syria President Bashar Assad and Washington supporting rebels who have been fighting Assad. Both the U.S. and Russia oppose the Islamic State group in Syria. Now, that's AP lying right there. I've interviewed the folks that brief Congress, both on air and off air, some of them generals, some of them colonels, you know, Colonel Schaefer. 98% of them are al-Qaeda, al-Nusra, Wahhabist. They're Sunni. They are backed by Saudi Arabia. They are the group. And so when you hear the U.S. has been backing the moderate rebels, that was under Obama, not now with Trump. That's why they've almost knocked out al-Qaeda and Syria and ISIS, because now we're able to go after them. They're not moderate rebels. They're posing as moderate rebels. They're almost defeated. So now the time is coming for Assad to step down, as he told the Pentagon he would do 5 years ago when they came in and didn't let Obama launch a ground war. Now it's time for Assad to begin the elections and moving out once the final pockets are mopped up. We're going to come back with 5 more minutes with Laura Loomer and her confrontation with fake news king Chris Cuomo. But first, here's a clip of the press conference they were having before they went into another meeting, and these announcements were made just in the last 10 minutes. Here is President Trump meeting with President Vladimir Putin.
It's going very well. We've had some very, very good talks. We're going to have a talk now, and obviously that will continue. But we look forward to a lot of very positive things happening for Russia, for the United States, and for everybody concerned. And it's an honor to be with you.
Then we've got another clip here of them first shaking hands. Trump came over to find where Putin was at to shake his hand. Our media, our government, the shadow government, the deep state, has been trying to keep people from just believing that our president's allowed to meet with foreign leaders. He is. He's the president. Final comments from Laura Loomer straight ahead. Then Steve Quayle on the North Korea situation, your phone calls, and more. I'm Alex Jones. This is History Happening. Stay with us.